Well, making a quick stop while I let the sleds cool down. It's giving me an overheating message. That definitely happens from time to time when I have this heavy load. Obviously, not only do I have all that gear and everything, but that sled is full of snow. If I wasn't so close to the truck, I'd probably empty it out because that's pretty darn heavy. The other thing I forgot to mention is that usually I have a small tarp that I put over that sled, mainly to keep stuff dry, but also to keep the snow out. Because man, it's got to be like 20 or 30 pounds of snow. This is not great conditions out here. It's very icy. Even at my cabin, which normally this time of year is like super fluffy, like crystal snow, stuff that you don't get anywhere near, sea level. And look at that little Batman with the fairings opened up. So it's, I'm super excited to be out here. It's been great, but it's not been super fun, especially at these lower altitudes. It's icy. The tire tracks are definitely controlling where my sled goes a bit. And, I think that's also contributing to overheating because I'm not getting the same kind of fluff, in addition to having a heavier sled fill up with wet, heavy snow. But I'm pretty darn close to the truck. I'm going to hang out here for just a couple minutes while it cools down. Piece of cake. Piece of cake. All right, we still got the sled attached to the snowmobile, so I'll just pull it up over there. I'll get the snowmobile close enough where I can try to kind of hook the leading edge of the trailer on the skis, because it doesn't stay up on its own. I either have to brace it or just kind of put it under the skis and get it up. But once I am closer to the truck, I'll disconnect the sled behind us, and then the last step will be to manually load that the gear in there into the truck bed itself. But yeah, this is a really easy trip compared to normal. You know, like I keep saying, it seems like it's a really, really warm winter. It's really icy down here. The snow at my cabin was icy, which is not normal. But a fun trip. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now, one last thing before we say goodbye, because it's a huge pet peeve of mine, and my bachelor's degree is in engineering, so I think about these things. This is really important to me. The way you secure your load and your snowmobile is super important. I've seen people that I thought really knew what they were doing, or people I really respect, who helped me tie down my snowmobile, and it's like, what the heck are you doing? So the thing to keep in mind with a trailer like mine, which is obviously not 100% ideal because it's open on both ends, but it is actually designed for, you know, a snowmobile. That's why it tilts the way it does. Is that at the front, basically you need 4 super solid points of contact. You want to use the strongest elements of the machine. Like, I'm not going to put any stress or strain on the supports. I want the strong mount points that are designed to take all the weight of the vehicle to be what I wrap around. So I'll put one tie here. And the other thing you need to keep in mind is all 4 points need to do a specific job. These ones on the front corners need to make sure that it can't shift left and right and cannot shift forward. So what I do is I run a strap from here to a point on the front of the trailer, and it's essentially locking this front corner in. On the back, to go from this corner down to this connection point, which is designed on the trailer to be a connection point. When this is further back and my connection point is right here and is under really strong tension, that will not allow the snowmobile to go backward. So keep these things in mind, because it's really, really important, especially if you're driving a truck and you have a load. You have to think through this stuff and make sure it's super safe, because if it shifts and you lose tension on those, that's not just it moving. That's now nothing is secure, and you could potentially have a big accident. And, you know, there's crazy statistics about how many loads are lost a day, and you can kill people like that. So that's my little last piece of advice and hopefully learning lesson. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. It was a really fun day trip, or overnighter, and if you like this kind of thing, as always, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to continue doing more and more of these videos. I'm going to continue to get better and better at these videos. I'm going to keep getting better footage, learn how to use that drone a bit better, maybe figure out a better mount for the snowmobile. So if you want to come along with me on my next adventure, be sure to subscribe. As I always say, I want to make a community, so be sure to comment. And if you've seen things that I did that could be better, or if you want to chime in or start a conversation, the comment sections are perfect for that. Another pointer with these ratchet style straps, which are really great for securing a load, is some people think that if you just crank it 3 times or just get it tight, that's good enough. You have to make sure that the actual strap itself goes around the metal dowel, or whatever you want to call this, more than once, because if it doesn't, then it doesn't have the tension and friction to keep it in place. So you don't just turn that lever 3 times. You want to make sure that you try your best to get 2 to 3 revolutions of the strap, because it being taut down on itself is what keeps it in place. I have seen these things slip even though they had it super tight and all that, because it just slides through the metal. Because right now all you have is material on metal, and that is not going to cause enough friction. So with this one, I'm holding this on my phone so I can't really do it, but I'm going to go where that goes around 2 to 3 revolutions and should be almost to the point where you can't tighten it anymore. And this should also be under a really tight load. Another consideration for these straps, especially for a setup like mine where I have long straps but not a long distance, is what are you going to do with all this extra material? You don't want it having the ability to get caught up in moving parts. You don't want it flapping around in the wind. You don't want it hitting other drivers, and you don't want it fraying itself to pieces on the freeway. And what I like to do, and sorry I'm holding the phone, I've got everything packed away, otherwise I'd put the drone up, but I like to just either run it through places where I'm using up that length, like I do here. I kind of go down and back, and then I loop it through itself where they really, maybe a 6 inches of extra line, but that's not going to be a problem. With this one, what I'll end up doing is looping it through itself in kind of a line, style knot, just to use up all that extra slack. So again, I don't want it waving out in the wind. I don't want it fraying itself to pieces on the freeway. It should end up looking something more like this. The last thing that I like to do, because I'm very forgetful at times, is for super important parts, keep them with your key. What I mean is, this is the pin that holds that down. I literally almost forgot to put it back in, but the way I protect myself from myself is I can't drive away without those keys. One time, I was borrowing my dad's trailer with a lock like this, and I put the lock right here, completely forgot about it, and drove away. We never found those keys again. So now, with a lock like that, or like this pin, I put my keys in it, so that way I cannot leave without it. So I hope these are helpful tips. I hope you guys will be inspired to get outdoors and do things along these lines. And if you have questions or comments, be sure to participate, because we're building a community. And with this sled, you never, ever, ever rely on bungee cords for your structural tie down, if you will. Those are simply there to stop it from moving over bumps or just catching wind on the freeway, to keep a little bit of tension on it where it's not going to go anywhere. What's really holding it in place is this big, thick rope that is what's meant to pull it. So that's kind of the structural element, if you will, is attached to the snowmobile, and there's very little slack in it. So that's what keeps it down, that's what keeps it in. These help to make sure it's not bouncing around or catching so much wind that the tail wants to fly out. So these are all really important considerations to have a really tight load. What I ended up doing with this one, actually I realized it's like the perfect length to loop back in there. So now this whole thing has no open sides. It's really going to be quick and easy for me to get that out. And so these are all the considerations that you want to keep, when you're deciding how to secure your load, which is super, super important, especially for someone like me who's driving 75 plus miles on the freeway each way. I also think that regardless of how good of a job you did tying your load down, especially if you're leaving a really bumpy, rocky area and have a load like mine that can move, I'm attaching to suspension, there's steering, things can shift. The back is supported, it's tied to the, it's under load, and there's a spring that's supported. Long story short is things can move. And I think it's a really smart idea that once you leave the area that has a bunch of bumps and you're getting prepared to get on the freeway, you check your load. As good of a job as I did, or as good of a job as I thought I did, things did shift, and there was a little bit of looseness, so a couple more cranks on those ratchet straps, and now I'm much, much more confident getting on the freeway and knowing that I've done a really good job to make sure that I don't have any movement or any major accidents. So that's the last pro tip when you're heading on out and in a place where you're getting prepared for the freeway. My mission is self-reliance through sustainable living, and we're here to build a community. Click here to subscribe to be sure to get more awesome content for living off the land. And be sure to go in to enter for notifications. Click that bell, get notifications, and stay in tune. Subscribe, watch, and comment. Let's build a community. See you soon.